Hello there, my name is Tim Walter. I'm a house healer and alternative life coach. It's taken me a while to get to making this video, some 2 months really. For those of you that are regular subscribers to the channel, you'll know that I haven't uploaded anything for those 8 weeks or so. And I've been touched really by the amount of people that have written and to ask whether I'm okay. And the fact is, no, I haven't really been okay. And what I want to talk to you about today is the vaccination. But I don't want to go into it in terms of to have or to have not. But I want to talk to you about how we can use circumstance, things that occur in our realities, in our lives. We can draw lessons from them, we can learn from them, we can develop from them. And not only that, what I want to illustrate is how the circumstance that's happened to me, that's kept me from doing any of this work for the last 2 months, because I had a vaccination, how actually we can use that as an example and an illustration of the way that we interact with this quantum realm of infinite possibility, whether for good or not so good. That's coming up. So, what was it that made me decide to go and have a vaccination? In the first instance, when all of this stuff blew up some 18 months or so ago, I definitely was on the path of not having it. There's no doubt about that. That would have been my traditional standpoint. And yet, when it came to it, I gave it a lot of thought. I gave more thought to this decision as to have a vaccination or not than I had actually given to things like getting married, for example. Those choices were easy. This one, not so easy. I wanted to sit with it, and I did for some time, and feel my way into it. And the questions I asked myself were, why would I not have the vaccination? And you know, the answer that came to me was actually, the only answer I could find was revolving around fear. Now, for those regulars amongst you that have been watching stuff on the channel for some time, you will know that we talked about fear and how the COVID situation was creating so much fear and how it has become such a derisory and divisive topic, which it has, of course. But all of these things are aspects of our individual realities. We can choose whether we want to buy into those aspects and how far we buy into those aspects of the scenario. We each have that freedom. And that was the point and the standpoint that I was putting across on YouTube for many months. And I thought that it was unfair of me to actually put that point across based on all the information and research that I'd done, detached research in my awareness that actually was coming up time and time again with, there is not a problem with having this vaccination. This is not as new and unique as a lot of people seem to suggest. There were underlying processes that had been explored and discovered. That was my choice, that was my findings, that was the information that was coming to me. Many of you will say, no, of course not, this is not the case. And that's fine, I get it. I've said this video is not about whether to have the vaccination or not. What I'm doing is relaying personal experience so that we can see how we actually, as a creative being connected to the universe, to the source energy of everything that we experience, how we can manipulate and be affected by and affect our immediate environment and the things that happen to us. Because this process is fundamental to a spiritual existence. This is not about vaccination and the hordes that are out to get us. This is about the process of being an individual point of awareness of the universe that has, we seem to have, free will. I made the choice based on what I'd researched and discovered and had coming into my awareness that the only reason for not having the vaccination was fear, and I was not prepared to put that fear foremost in my decision-making process. I asked upstairs about this. As you might expect, I wasn't going to wander into it blindly. I try to live my life walking in step with the management and asking their opinion. Their view was, what they actually said was, fundamentally, if you go ahead and have the vaccination, your energy will not be as clean, clear, solid, in balance as if you didn't. So in other words, if you have the vaccination, you are going to have detrimental side effects. My question to them then was, will it kill me? In the sense of, as a human being, was it going to kill Tim Walter? And the answer was no. And on that basis, I said, right, I'm going to go for it. So on the day of the vaccination, I went along, but I actually went along to the vaccination centre with an incredibly open heart. I had done quite a lot of meditation. I had done an exercise in energy protection also. I'm aware that there's so much fear associated with this process. I didn't want that fear coming into me as an energy being, and so I was taking steps to negate any side effects that might be there. And on that first occasion, that process worked very, very well. The experience that I had of walking into the vaccination centre, of having such a completely free flow path through, nobody was there, there was no queues, obviously there was somebody there to dish out the vaccination, but this was a large building. This was a place in a nearby town that was set up to be processing hundreds if not thousands of people, and it had been doing so for weeks. But I got there in this amazing opportunity of just simply walking through the building, walking up the stairs, being shown the way into the room, and the lady was there with like, oh, you don't even have to sit down if you don't want to. That'll save me cleaning the chair. Let's just do this. Which arm do you want? Okay, into that one. Fantastic. I was aware that I'd got a filter in place and I was keeping all the crap out. Brilliant. What happened as a result of that vaccination? Nothing. I didn't feel anything in terms of side effects. I felt fine. To the extent that actually I'd sort of almost overlooked the fact that I needed a second one at some point if I was going to follow this process, and I wanted to follow the process. So when it came to the second vaccination, some 12 weeks later in the end, I left it quite some time, just for one thing or another. 12 weeks. I sort of went into it rather glibly. I didn't do the depth of meditation, I didn't do the depth of energy exercise. The first sort of warning sign that I should have paid attention to was that the opportunity to have the vaccination wasn't going to be at the same centre, it was somewhere else. And I should have realised that that's like, oh yes, different energy. It didn't click. I kind of thought, well, I've done the exercise and I don't need to do it again. I did need to do it again. One thing I should say about the vaccination itself, what we know is fact, is that the first vaccination, I refuse to use the word jab, is a certain percentage of strength, and the second one is considerably higher. That's the process that they follow. I had the AstraZeneca vaccination. Now that may have a bearing on what happened, but I think what was more important is the way and the energy work, the intention that I exercised in the process, or in the second case, the second vaccination, didn't exercise in the process. I went along to the chemist's shop. It was a chemist shop in a nearby town. Yeah, nothing against that shop at all really, just certainly didn't feel like the first place that I'd been to have the first one. I went in, I didn't really like the environment, didn't feel great. I didn't like the room in which we were going to be doing it. I didn't like the fact it was about 4 foot square. It was very refined, very cramped in there. I didn't feel good in terms of, yeah, let's get this done. And in the first time I had the vaccination, I actually felt quite in harmony with humanity. This time, no, not so much. And when the lady put the thing in my arm, I actually felt I wasn't ready. I actually thought I wasn't ready for that. And so I quickly did some energy work on sort of, whoa, no, hang on, let's put that in place, get the filter in there, keep the crap out. Too late. So what happened? Well, 4 days. 4 days after that vaccination, I started to get headaches. Those headaches were pretty much migraine headaches. I would describe them as, my mother used to have migraine when I was a child, and she would be spending days on end in bed in the darkened room throwing up. Fortunately, I didn't get to that stage, but I couldn't do anything but go to bed. And I had to stay in bed day after day after day, or else my head was absolutely killing me. I couldn't think in those first few weeks. Now, I registered the fact that I had an adverse reaction to this vaccination on the official government website, yellow card they call it. Now, what I know is that that will go down as headache, and the official stats for headaches are out there for everybody to see, and it's a very high percentage actually. I can't remember what that percentage is, but it's remarkably high. But what that headache doesn't imply is more or less a month and a half off work. Now, obviously, the great thing is that, of course, that my client base understands that things happen when things happen. That things happen and are in flow with the universe and with the management. So, fortunately, and bless them, my clients were very, very understanding. But the circumstance nonetheless was that I couldn't do things like make a video program to upload onto YouTube, because I simply couldn't spend the time out of bed without getting the headache. Now, as we stand at the moment, here we are, nearly 9 weeks after the second vaccination. It's 8.5 weeks, something like that. I am now taking homeopathy for the symptoms, and we are working them through, and I'm definitely getting better. It's good. And many people have actually written in with suggestions as to how, as to remedies and things like this. And I'm grateful for that. And one of the things that I've actually learned in this 8-week period is actually a lot about myself and my absolutely rigid feelings about humanity and my part in humanity. And actually, despite what you might think I'm going to say, actually, my view of humanity has improved. It's been glorious the way people have rallied round and offered to help and made suggestions. It's been glorious to feel that actually humanity as a whole is fundamentally connected and is, yes, there is a massive battle of good and evil going on all the time. That's the nature of the human realm, the three-dimensional realm in which we live. But, I had previously lived a lot of my life feeling that actually there was far more of the bad stuff than there was the good stuff, and that's not the case. I believe that 100% now. And I'll tell you what else I believe. And this is what we're going to be getting more and more of on the channel, is about the fact that, yeah, let's go back to that battle of good and evil, because we have moved on. This COVID experience worldwide and globally has been a healing process. It's been a healing reaction for the species, right? And what is now apparent, and what we're getting from the management more and more, is that yes, we've made those decisions, we've made those choices, humanity has made those choices, we've turned the corner, we've decided which way we're going, and we, as in the good guys, are winning. And what does that mean? What it means is that actually we're on this wave now, this movement of individuals realizing their power, their reality, their ability to change things. Realize that they can, almost no matter what, adjust how they feel about everything. Because that is absolutely possible. The only thing we have ever had, as individual creative units of the universe is the ability to change the way that we respond to what we are given, to what we are shown, to the choices that we make. One choice reflects something else from our reality. We make another choice, the reality shifts and changes. Infinite possibility, that's what we relate to. How does that affect, how does that relate, what am I saying in terms of my process of going to get the vaccinations? The first time I went, I did it working from the heart. I focused a lot on the good stuff that was present in the world, even connected to the COVID situation. I went in there and the reality I experienced was a harmonious one. And the result was a harmonious one. The second time, no, I didn't. I did not. I did not exercise my right and my power to connect with the infinite possibility of the quantum realm through the goodness of my heart. What I did was, I was lazy and I just allowed the standard process through from the solar plexus chakra, which is all about the human being in the 3 dimensions, wandering around, not really being aware. And what happened? A lot of the low energy vibration came in, and boom, here we are. But what I'm trying to say is, we have choices, and the infinite possibilities, the choices that we make as we connect to the infinite possibilities of the quantum realm. We have to remember that we are also part of that infinite possibility. So our point of reference, when we think we are relating to something out there, we are part of it. And our point of reference changes within the boundary, the fuzzy boundary that is potentially us at that time, at that moment. It's not one fixed point going out into the possibilities of everything. It is the possibilities of everything out there and the possibilities of everything in here. And so by adjusting our point of reference for our own awareness, which is done through the emotional feelings of the body, what we emotionally feel and how we make sense and meaning of things, that affects the way that what we interact with out there. So it is absolutely about context, context within and context without. And I hope you see that that is what I've learned in the last 8 weeks after having that second vaccination. I hope that's made sense, and I hope that hasn't insulted anybody, and I hope that despite whatever your view is of whether you should or shouldn't have the vaccination, and that is personally your own choice, that is entirely your own choice, but I hope that what I've discussed today, what I've mentioned, what I've raised here today has actually made some kind of difference to your ability to choose and make choices. I'll see you next time. Bye.